Nightwing 123 Legacy number 310. Dan Waters writing with Dexter Soy on the art. So I dug this. This is, I mean, it's an interesting
Mhm.
turn for this arc.
Mhm.
But basically, it kind of takes one of the other gangs and fleshes them out a bit, and in doing so, gives us a very different sort of flavor to the story because all of a sudden we've got like a horror sci-fi monster like movie thing playing
Mhm.
out. Because obviously we've had Nightwing interacting with the Teddies the last couple issues, and one of the other gangs is the Flyboys, who are mutants. This issue develops them a bit further, and we get to learn some things about them. So yeah, basically Nightwing gets the beeper call, right? Because he gave them all a button to press if they're in
Mhm.
trouble. And things are a bit strenuous with the Teddies, who are kind of itching to like go out, and because there's more frame jobs happening. One of the Flyboys has been
Mhm.
caught blowing up a like a facility for the Spheric company.
Yep.
I want to say OCP so badly, but yeah, Spheric.
Spirit. Yeah, Spirit.
So yeah, Nightwing follows the beacon, and it leads to like an entrance to like an abandoned underground facility of some kind, and a bunch of the Flyboys are lying dead, and we get a lot of cool little backstory here, which actually ties into some really old stuff.
Yeah.
He mentions that because of the chemical weapon from like a Nightwing story in 2006,
Mhm.
uh, that this was a place that was built to basically store the corpses of the people who died because they were still
Mhm.
toxic, and this was just kind of where they got rid of them. But the Flyboys had been given this place to come down and like experiment and like continue making their mutagens and whatnot, but it's led to a lot of them being sick and dying. So even just like the atmosphere as Nightwing was going in and we were getting like bits and pieces of this backstory and explaining what this place even was for, I thought all of
Yeah.
that was really cool and intriguing.
Well, and I like that Barbara's like, there's nothing here on my map, right? And then she's Oracle.
Mm.
She has access to everything. So this is a deep, deep cover, hidden place. And then as her comms popping in and out, the deeper he goes, it really set the tone. Like you said, like a sci-fi horror kind of vibe.
Yeah, it was
Like, what's he
creepy.
gonna find in this? And I also like the idea that the Flyboys started out as just a regular gang. That the creator of that drug, right? Uh, he needed to sell more drugs, but instead of upping the potency, he messed with the genetics of the users to make them more dependent on it, and that's what led to the fly stuff, the bugs
Yeah.
in their genetics. So that was a fun little take on big pharma, I guess, if you want to look at it like that too. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, cool touch here is Nightwing's logo becoming like lighting up and
Yeah.
being a big torch, effectively.
Hmm.
I thought was really cool. It was a really nice visual of him walking in the dark hallways with like this just beacon of light on his chest.
Hmm.
So yeah, all this stuff was fun, and I think the interesting thing here is that by the end, it kind of made you empathize with the Flyboys. Like they weren't just like evil villains anymore. In the same way that the Teddies became more humanized when we found out that there were a bunch of teenagers and kids, and one of them, of course, got badly hurt or killed, and like all of a sudden, oh hey, we can't just look down on this gang anymore. There's like real people here, and when
Hmm.
we hear that, yeah, these Flyboys like a lot of them are just dying, and then some of them have went like feral, which is what happens. That's what attacks Nightwing is
Hmm.
one of the big sort of monsters, and
Yeah.
there ends up being a bunch of them, and he ends up running and being trapped inside with a woman flyboy, which is a weird sentence. But she's like a scientist, and she's kind of explaining that this stuff has happened. She's got like a little thing here where she like every time there's like an S in a word, she says it with like two or three Z's. So
Yeah.
reading her dialogue was a little
It was a
uh,
pain.
well, like it was a pain. It was just a little bit funny, more than
Yeah.
anything. But yeah, but there's big test tubes. I was getting like Umbrella Laboratory underneath the Spencer Estate vibes from Resident
Hmm.
Evil. There's a lot of that cool stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, Also, so you said the event. So you weren't reading comics when that happened, right? When they dropped chemo on Bloodhaven.
no, I mean,
Okay.
I sort of started reading around then, and I did go back and obviously read a bunch of things here or there, but I never read like the Nightwing stuff from that particular chunk of
Yeah.
time.
So I can't remember if it was the lead up to Infinite Crisis or the fallout from Infinite Crisis. But that was something that happened, is that the villains got together and they dropped Chemo, the living chemical guy,
Although,
on Bloodhaven.
to be fair, though, I think it's in Under the Hood, or Under the Red Hood. There's a moment where Batman like gets scared because he looks over and sees what looks like a mushroom cloud coming from Bloodhaven. I'm assuming that's this event.
Yep. And that was that. I feel like they were trying to move Nightwing back into Gotham so they'd take Bloodhaven away. So at that time, it was toxic to go into the epicenter and whatever. So I do like that Dan Watters follows up on that and gets the story out of it. This is where those bodies, like you said, this is where the toxic bodies went, and so this made it for a spot for the Flyboys to fine tune their drugs and whatever.
Yeah, and they were given this by Spheric for one of their own doing a job for them, and it turned out they were using them to frame them for this attack, which has made all the other gangs heat up and like want the gang war to keep happening. So yeah, there's a manipulation tactic going on here, and Nightwing obviously wants to expose it. And it's killing. All this stuff down here is killing most of them. Some of them have turned into just outright monsters. So yeah, but she's basically begging for help. So all of a sudden now, two of these gangs are sympathetic in some way. Like they're these are tragic like people who have been succumbed to what's going on. And what's so good about it is that the bookend of this issue is the head of Spheric talking to Melinda, Mayor, Nightwing's sister, and saying, hey, you're doing horrible in the polls. This other guy who's got ties to Blockbuster's old gang is running for mayor and bad-mouthing you, and he's doing very well right now. If you increase our budget and give me the power to protect the city, then I'll be able to, revive your reputation.
Yep.
And it ends in this really ominous thing where it seems like she's given in and giving her what she wants. And it kind of mirrors what Nightwing said before. When Nightwing made his promise to all the gangs, he had a line where he says, I don't break my promises. And Melinda says the same thing. And the great thing in the art here is that they do like a split panel where it's Melinda's face, like starting what she's saying. And then for the part where she says the same thing Nightwing said, it's actually just a box on his like panel. And it's a really nice little touch because if you didn't remember that he said that, the art's making it very clear to associate that with something Nightwing said.
Yeah.
So really nice, simple stuff here. But I had a lot of fun with this issue. I think it succeeds in multiple levels. It succeeds in being a cool little, almost standalone, spooky horror sci-fi tale, which ties into some classic Nightwing stuff. And just is really good. But in this context of the larger arc, it doesn't fail that either, because it furthers this idea that we're getting to know these different gangs so that we actually care about all the people who are getting affected by all this plot with the company and the policing stuff that's going on right now. So it did that, so it gave us something different, but also advanced the plot and made something have more weight and layers. So, just good all round. And obviously Dexter Soy's art's great, and because he gets to draw some monster stuff this issue, he gets to do something a little bit different.
Here, even when Nightwing's talking to the Teddies, everything that's cast in the shadows too. So Soy's playing with the tone early on here. Another part I want to talk about too was the when Nightwing's checking on him, right? Because the Teddies are kids, and he asks how Bryce is. And the guy's like, well, how do you think he is? He's 11 and watched his brother get murdered by a cop. And it was just one of those things like, oh, yeah, these are just kids, right? And so it's Nightwing seeing how they really are, and this is why he's doing that. I thought that was a really effective line.
Yeah, because I think you forget sometimes because characters like Damien exist, but 11 is really young.
Yeah.
11 is super young.
And it's not like these are like teenagers, right? Where, oh, okay, you can, it rides that line. They're making their own decisions or whatever. Now, 11 years old is still a child, but yeah.
Yeah.
He's Dan Watters doing some real interesting stuff with Nightwing.
Yeah, I'm digging it a lot. It feels different, feels fresh, and they keep adding new and interesting layers onto the story. That's giving everything more weight, because the more of these gangs we get to know and learn, and it wouldn't surprise me if we get an issue like this for the other two gangs as well, so that we have like some sympathy for all of them. That it's a really well-developed story at that point if we really do that. Yeah, and maybe we will. I mean, like, will the blockbusters really be sympathetic? I know that's a tougher one to buy, really. But they could reveal something that makes them more sympathetic. Maybe they all do it out of fear because Blockbuster threatened to kill them constantly. I don't know.
And they have that guy running for mayor that has ties to them. So, you know, what are his ties like there? You know?
Yeah. So that may be the gang that remains villainous just because they're attached to someone who was always a villain. But the others, so far, we've really developed some of them into being more than just because I think even at the start of the arc when they first said, hey, we've got these other gangs that are all at play, they were all kind of memorable and different, and it kind of sounded fun from the sense of, oh, we've got gang warfare happening in Bloodhaven and Nightwing has to deal with it. But it's even better now that they've been fleshed out and we understand who some of these gangs are. It actually is kind of cool. So all right, what are you rating Nightwing, Matt?
I'm gonna go with an 8.5.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree. It's maybe even close to a 9, but I think I'll stay on the 8.5. I'll refrain a little bit.